on our anniversary trip. My wife raised her glass like a queen about to make a toast and said the words that split my life clean in two. On our anniversary trip, my wife looked me dead in the eye and said, "I sold your cabin. My boyfriend needed the money." Her cousin laughed it off. "He'll get over it." I leaned back and said, "That's cute. I sold something too." The room went quiet. That's the short version people hear later when they ask why I'm not married anymore. But since you're here, I'll tell you how it really felt from my side of the table. We were in this overpriced mountain resort in Colorado, the kind of place my wife, Ashley, loved. Champagne at check-in, fake smiles, real money. The dining room glowed with warm light and expensive wood paneling. There were couples everywhere, clinking glasses, taking photos for social media. At our table sat Ashley, her cousin Madison, Madison's husband Luke, and me, Ethan, the idiot who thought 10 years of marriage meant something. Ashley looked perfect, of course. Long blonde hair curled just enough to look effortless, the thin gold necklace I bought her years ago, and a red dress she picked specifically because, in her words, you should at least have something nice to look at. She'd said it with a laugh, but even the waiter flinched a little. That's Ashley in one sentence. Everything is a joke when it cuts me. We just finished dessert when she did it. No build-up, no softening, just pure, weaponized cruelty delivered with a smile. She tapped her spoon against the glass. "Okay," she said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "I have an announcement." I felt my stomach tighten. Announcements from Ashley never ended well for me. She turned to me, eyes bright, lips stretched in that practiced, camera-ready grin. "Ethan, babe," she said, "remember your cabin? The one your grandpa left you. Our cabin. The place where my grandfather taught me to fish, where my dad and I fixed the roof one summer, where I proposed to her under a sky full of stars." I nodded slowly. "Yeah," I said. "What about it?" She took a sip of wine, savoring the moment. "I sold it." I thought I misheard her. "You what?" "I sold your cabin," she repeated, drawing out each word like she was savoring a punchline. "My boyfriend needed the money." She didn't whisper boyfriend. She didn't hesitate or glance around in shame. She dropped that word in the middle of the table like a grenade, then watched, amused, to see what would happen. For half a second, my brain refused to process it. The room seemed to narrow. The sounds of clattering plates, distant laughter, and piano music all blurred into a dull roar behind my ears. I looked at her, waiting for the smirk, the relax, "I'm kidding." That's what a normal person would do. Ashley is not a normal person. Her cousin Madison burst out laughing, slapping the table with manic delight. "Oh my God, Ash," she snorted. "You are savage. He'll get over it. He always does." Luke didn't laugh. He stared at his napkin like he wished he was literally anywhere else. Ashley twisted the knife. "You should have seen the buyer's face when he realized how cheap he was getting it," she went on, swirling her wine. "I told him my husband was sentimental, not smart. You don't use it anyway, Ethan. At least now, it's helping someone who actually matters. Someone who actually matters." There it was. I felt a strange calm slide over me. It's funny. When your world finally collapses, sometimes you don't explode. You just click into place. Because here's the thing Ashley didn't know. 3 weeks earlier, I had discovered everything. The messages, the hotel receipts, the photos, the boyfriend she just casually advertised in front of her family had name, Brandon. Pezona Trina. Walking cliche with abs and a Lee sports car. She thought she was clever, hiding his contact under Bella nails in her phone. She thought I was stupid enough to believe she suddenly needed her nails done 3 times a week in cash. I had played along, smiled, kissed her cheek, pretended nothing was wrong, while I went to my lawyer, my bank, and the county records office. Ashley thought she was the storm, and I was the sandcastle. She had no idea the tide was already coming for her. So when she dropped her little announcement, I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I didn't cry. I leaned back in my chair, wiped my hands slowly on the napkin, and looked around the table. Madison's eyes were glittering with gossip. Luke looked like a hostage. Ashley was watching me like a cat watching a trapped mouse, waiting to see which way I'd run. Instead, I smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It felt like my face belonged to someone else, someone who'd finally snapped the last thread. That's cute, I said quietly. Ashley's eyebrows lifted. She hated when I didn't react the way she expected. What's cute? She asked, tilting her head. I sold something too, I said. The words came out softer than hers, but they hit harder. The air around the table changed. You could feel it. The way people at nearby tables slowed their conversations without even realizing why. The way Madison's laughter died halfway out of her throat. Ashley's smile faltered for the first time all evening. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice just a notch too sharp. I let the question hang there, savoring it. For once, I was the one in control of the silence. I watched her eyes flicker, doing the math. She wasn't scared yet, just irritated that the spotlight had moved away from her. You know that moment in a storm when the wind suddenly drops and everything goes still, right before the sky tears open? That's what the room felt like. Madison shifted in her seat. What did you sell, Ethan? She asked, trying to keep her tone light, but her fingers were twisting her napkin into a knot. I could have told him right then. I could have laid every card on the white tablecloth and watched their perfect little world blow apart in a single sentence. Instead, I took my time. I reached for my glass, watching my own hand steady and calm as I lifted it. My heart was pounding, but not from fear, from something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. I let my gaze rest on Ashley. If I told you now, I said, it would ruin the surprise. Her eyes hardened. That bitchy, dismissive mask slid back into place. Oh, please, she scoffed, tossing her hair. You probably sold at old fishing gear or something. Don't try to act dramatic, Ethan. It doesn't suit you. But the tremor in her hand when she reached for her wine told a different story. The room was so quiet I could hear the soft clink of her bracelet against the glass. You want to know what I sold, right? Everyone does. I'll tell you. But to make sense of it, you need to know how we got here, how I went from the guy who would have forgiven anything to the man sitting in that chair, watching his wife brag about her boyfriend while secretly holding the match over everything she thought she owned. So let's rewind. Back to the first lie I caught. Back to the first time I saw that look in her eyes that said I wasn't enough anymore. Back to the day I realized that the woman I married had turned into a stranger who would stand in public on our anniversary and smile as she shattered the last piece of my family's history for a man who didn't even know how to start a campfire without a lighter. That's where this really starts. And that's the part you need to hear next. People always say betrayals don't begin with explosions, more like hairline fractures. Barely noticeable at first, but once you see them, you realize the whole damn foundation was already split. Looking back, the first crack appeared months before that anniversary trip, though I couldn't see it then. I was still Ethan, loyal, predictable, the guy who believed wedding vows were made of steel instead of cheap plastic. It started with Ashley's smile. Ashley used to smile at me like I was her entire sky. At least that's what I thought. But one morning, while she scrolled through her phone at breakfast, her smile appeared out of nowhere. Sharp, private, aimed at a screen I couldn't see. When I asked what was funny, she slid the phone away and replied, "It's work stuff, Ethan. You wouldn't get it." She never said I couldn't get it. She said I wouldn't. That's the sound of a door closing, softly at first. Then came the gym obsession. Ashley had always cared about her looks. That wasn't new. But suddenly she was going every day, sometimes twice. She dressed like she was auditioning for a music video, not lifting weights. She came home smelling like someone else's cologne, one of those aggressively masculine scents designed to make men insecure. "You're imagining things," she told me when I mentioned it. "Stop being paranoid. It's embarrassing." Not she was embarrassed, I was. That's when Brandon slithered into the picture. I didn't know his name yet, but I knew the type instantly. The kind of guy who thinks protein powder counts as a personality. She'd drop his name casually at first. "My trainer says this, my trainer showed me that." And every time she said the word "my," something inside me twisted. Still, I kept making excuses. Marriage does that. You don't want to believe the person sleeping beside you is actually sharpening knives behind your back. The second crack came wrapped in glitter. Ashley walked through the door one night, wearing a small gold bracelet I didn't recognize. It had 2 letters engraved on it, BC. My initials aren't BC. My initials aren't even close. "Where'd you get that?" I asked, already knowing I wasn't going to like the answer. She didn't even blink. Madison got it for me. That's weird, I said. Why would Madison get something with someone else's initials? Ashley didn't miss a beat. They're not initials. It's a quote. Be calm. You should try it. That's the thing about Ashley. She lies like she breathes. Smooth. Effortless. She doesn't break eye contact, doesn't stutter, doesn't offer more than necessary. She throws out the lie, and if you question it, she makes you feel unstable. I try to let it go, but that bracelet taunted me. Every time she touched it, every time her fingers traced those letters, her expression changed, like the bracelet was a secret she worshipped. Then came the third crack, the one you can't ignore. Ashley started locking her phone. In 10 years of marriage, she never had a password. Now she guarded her phone like it contained nuclear codes. She'd angle the screen away from me, turn off notifications, sleep with it under her pillow. When I asked why, she rolled her eyes and said, "You always act so controlling. I need privacy. Everyone does. Everyone needs privacy. Liars need secrecy." One night, she fell asleep early, her phone buzzing under her pillow. I reached for it, not out of jealousy, but survival. If the foundation of your life starts shaking, you don't just sit in the house and hope it stays up. She woke up mid-grab. The look in her eyes wasn't fear. It was hatred. "Don't you ever touch my phone," she hissed, snatching it like it was a living thing she needed to protect. "It's mine. Not everything in this house belongs to you." I wasn't touching her phone. I was touching her doorway out. I didn't know it then, but Brandon was already living inside that device, laughing, sweating, whispering things to her that she once whispered only to me. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Distrust isn't loud. It's quiet, cold, and patient. It sits beside you at the dinner table and watches everything you thought you knew rot from the inside. The cracks weren't cracks anymore. They were fault lines. And something was about to break. Part 3 will be the moment everything collapses, the first undeniable proof, the moment I stopped being Ethan the husband and became Ethan the witness. You don't wake up one day and suddenly know your wife is cheating. The knowledge creeps in like smoke, slow, invisible at first, then choking, undeniable. But there's always that one moment, that final puzzle piece that doesn't just fit, it snaps. My moment arrived on a Thursday. Ashley told me she was heading to Pilates with Madison. Nothing unusual, except she was dressed like she was going to a red carpet premiere, not a workout. Tight black dress, heels way too high for exercise, lipstick the shade she wore only when she wanted men to notice her. I didn't say anything. Married men learn silence the way prisoners learn the walls of their cells. She left in a hurry, but not before checking her reflection 3 times and spritzing perfume on the inside of her thighs. Nobody perfumes their thighs for core strengthening. For 3 hours, I stare at my phone, adrenaline dripping through me like battery acid. Finally, I snapped. I grabbed my keys, got in the truck, and drove to her gym, telling myself I wasn't going to do anything crazy. I just needed to see. The parking lot was half empty. Her car wasn't there. So people would go home. I kept driving. There's a hotel not far from the gym. One of those boutique, overpriced, privacy-focused places with tinted windows and no questions asked. I didn't have a plan. I just knew something inside me was pulling me there, like a magnet made of humiliation. Her car was parked right at the entrance. No scam, no attempt to hide. My heart dropped into some dark basement of my chest. The world narrowed into one small, sharp point. I walked into the lobby, every step heavier than the last. The receptionist gave me that customer service smile, the one that says she'd rather die than get involved in your problems. "Can I help you?" she asked. "My wife is here," I replied, voice flat. "Ashley Miller." She blinked. Something flickered behind her eyes, recognition. That was worse than any confirmation. "I'm afraid." I cut her off. "I know the law. Give me the room number." She didn't. But when she flinched at my tone, her gaze slipped left to the elevator. Human tells are louder than words. I hit the button. The elevator ride felt like a lifetime. Every insecurity, every half-lie I ignored, every moment I'd told myself I was imagining things replayed in my head like a slideshow designed to break me. When the doors opened, I heard it, the unmistakable sound of laughter. Ashley's laughter, the kind she hadn't used with me in months. I walked toward it. Room 214. The door wasn't even locked properly. It was ajar, as if the universe wanted me to see what waited inside. I pushed it open. There they were, Ashley and Brandon. Her hair wild, her dress half off, her smile, the same smile she used on me in our early years, aimed directly at him. He was shirtless, muscles carved like a gym commercial, wearing nothing but smugness and sweat. My brain stopped working. My body didn't. Ashley froze. Her smile evaporated so fast it felt like someone slapped it off her face. Brandon stood, ready to posture like a bull who'd just noticed another bull. "What are you doing here?" Ashley snapped, as if I'd interrupted her folding laundry, not stumbled into her betrayal. My voice didn't shake. It shocked me. "Checking your Pilates form." Brandon puffed up the way insecure men do. "Back off, man. She's not your property." Property. That word burned. Ashley grabbed a sheet, covering only what she wanted to protect. Not her dignity, because she didn't have any left. "You're so dramatic, Ethan," she sneered. "You always overreact." Overreact. My marriage was dying in front of me, and she wanted to grade my behavior. But then came the moment I broke. A gold bracelet sat on the nightstand. BC. Not be calm. Brandon Collins. Her trainer. Her work friend. Her reason. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because insanity sometimes bubbles up as laughter when tears would drown you. Ashley stormed toward me, whispering viciously, "If you weren't so boring, this wouldn't have happened." That's when something inside me went cold. Not angry. Not sad. Dead. Dead things don't beg. Dead things don't reason. Dead things plan. I walked out of that room with something Ashley never expected me to have. Certainty. She thought the cabin was the biggest card she could play. She hadn't seen the deck I was holding. I didn't remember driving home. 1 second, I was in that hotel hallway, hearing Ashley's voice dripping with contempt, seeing Brandon's smug face burned into my brain. The next second, I was standing in our kitchen, keys still in my hand, staring at the fridge like it had personally betrayed me too. It's strange what your mind clings to. The fridge was covered in photos. Us at the cabin, us on the beach, us at our wedding. All those frozen moments where I thought we were a team and she was already auditioning for other roles. I pulled every photo down, one by one, slowly, carefully. My hands were steady, too steady, the kind of calm that scares people. I sat at the table and waited. Ashley finally came home hours later, walking in like she'd just finished a long day of errands. Her hair was tied up now, her makeup fixed, but there were still faint marks on her neck. Brandon's fingerprints, invisible but obvious. She dropped her purse on the counter and jumped when she saw me. "Jesus, Ethan," she snapped, clutching her chest. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" "That's creepy." I leaned back in the chair, watching her with the detachment of a stranger. "How was Pilates?" She rolled her eyes dramatically, like I was the problem. "We're not doing this." "Oh, we are," I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You lied. Again. You weren't with Madison. You were with Brandon. In a hotel room." A flicker. Just one. Then the mask snapped back on. "You followed me?" She shot back. "Are you insane?" There it was. The classic Ashley routine. Ignore the crime. Attack the detective. "I saw you," I said. "Both of you." "Then you saw what you pushed me to," she replied, crossing her arms. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I woke up one day and said, 'Hey, I want to go find another man'? No. I got tired of feeling invisible. Tired of being married to a man who lives like an old man in a cabin he barely uses. Histoire de hair. So your solution was what? Sneak around with your trainer behind my back." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Sneak? Ethan, you're so naive. If you paid attention, you would have seen this coming. You're always working, always worrying about bills, always exhausted. Brandon reminds me I'm still alive." Alive. She said it like I'd killed her. I stood up slowly, pushing the chair back with a low scrape. "You could have talked to me," I said. "You could have told me you were unhappy. We could have gone to therapy. We could have done something." She wrinkled her nose. "I don't need therapy. I need excitement. I need a man who actually makes me feel something other than trapped." There was the truth. Raw. Filthy. unapologetic. You're unbelievable, I whispered. No, she snapped, stepping closer, jabbing a manicured finger in my chest. What's unbelievable is that you still think you're the victim here. Look at you, sitting here sulking like some wounded puppy. Grow up. Men lose things. They move on. Lose things, I repeated. You mean my cabin? She smirked. Oh, so you heard that too. Good. Then let's not pretend you didn't deserve it. I blinked. I deserve you selling my grandfather's cabin to fund your boyfriend? If you'd given me the life I wanted, I wouldn't have needed a boyfriend, she said, with that casual cruelty only she could manage. And don't act like that cabin meant so much to you. You barely go there. It's a relic. I converted it into something useful. You should thank me. Something inside me snapped, so quietly I almost missed it. I stepped back, and something changed in my face. I saw it in her eyes. For the first time, she looked unsure, like she was finally realizing the thing she'd been kicking for years had teeth. You're right, I said softly. She blinked. What? You're right, I repeated. I've been acting like a wounded puppy. I've been begging for scraps of respect from a woman who thinks loyalty is optional. That's on me. Her guard went up. What are you saying? I straightened, shoulders relaxing, a strange lightness seeping into me. I'm saying this is the last night you talk to me like I'm beneath you. The last night you treat everything I built like disposable cash for your side projects. You built, she scoffed. Please. Without me, you'd be some lonely guy staring at your grandpa's photos in that stupid cabin. I smiled. This time, it felt real. The cabin's gone, I said. But you're about to find out what else is. Her eyes narrowed. What did you do, Ethan? Nothing yet, I replied. But I've seen enough. I know enough. And for the first time in 10 years, I'm done asking you to love me. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She wasn't used to this version of me. The man who stopped begging. The man who started planning. Because our anniversary trip was coming. And that was where I'd show her exactly what I sold. Our 10th anniversary trip was supposed to be a celebration of everything we had built together. At least, that's how Ashley framed it when she booked the suite months before. Back then, I thought it was romantic. Now, I realized it was the perfect stage for her final performance. She wasn't commemorating our marriage. She was preparing its execution. But she didn't know I was no longer the audience. I was the architect of the finale. The morning we left, Ashley walked downstairs dragging 3 suitcases, far more than any human needs for a weekend trip. She looked like a movie star escaping to Monaco, not a wife heading to Colorado with her husband. Her phone buzzed nonstop. She never once turned the screen my way. I watched her calm, almost detached. That scared her. She was used to me asking questions, offering help, showing emotion. My silence confused her. Good. Confusion is the crack that fear slips through. You're unusually quiet, she said, feigning casual curiosity. Everything okay? Never better, I replied. Her eyes narrowed. Ashley always needed control. She could smell it when someone else had the upper hand. Halfway to the resort, she started humming, scrolling through her phone, texting rapidly. Her posture somehow both smug and restless. She kept stealing glances at me, like she expected me to break, to plead for affection, to beg for explanations. I didn't. That forced her to improvise. You know, she began, her tone dipped in sugar. You should be grateful. Most men would kill to have a wife who still cares about making anniversaries special. Madison says Luke barely remembers her birthday. I didn't respond. Silence was my weapon now. She didn't know how to fight against it. The resort was perched on a mountain ridge, wrapped in pine trees and thin air. The kind of place influencers pretend is rustic while paying more for a weekend than most pay for rent. The perfect place to trap a queen who thinks she owns the board. Her cousin Madison and her husband Luke were already in the lobby. Madison squealed as she hugged Ashley, ignoring me the way you ignore the waiter who brings the bill. Luke gave me a nod. He knew. I could see it. Men know. Even if they don't say it, they smell the rot behind a fake smile. The first night was a test, like Ashley wanted to see if I would crumble. She leaned on Luke's arm at dinner, laughed too loudly at Brandon's texts, and treated me like a bench she occasionally rested her purse on. Madison threw little barbs across the table. Ethan, you look tired. Ashley must exhaust you emotionally. Luke stared at his plate like he wished he were buried under it. I didn't react. Ashley got irritated. She wasn't used to throwing matches that didn't spark. The next day was the hike. Ashley insisted we all go, pretending to be outdoorsy even though she hates nature unless it comes with Wi-Fi and wine. She strutted like a runway model, ignoring my existence, texting someone, Brandon obviously, the entire time. Then, halfway up the trail, she turned to me and delivered the line that confirmed she wasn't just cruel. She enjoyed cruelty. You know, Ethan, some people grow, some get left behind, like old cabins. My blood went cold, but my face didn't change. She wanted a reaction. I refused to give her one. That night, she got drunk. Not sloppy drunk, strategic drunk. Loud, flirty, venom wrapped in glitter. And then came her mistake. She whispered something to Madison, forgetting I was close enough to hear. Her voice was casual, almost bored. After this trip, I'm done pretending. Brandon's taking me to Miami. Ethan won't even see it coming. Madison giggled. You're evil. Ashley smirked. No, I'm efficient. That was the moment I realized something. Ashley wasn't cheating. Ashley was replacing me, my life, my history, my cabin, everything. And she thought she'd already won. She didn't know the storm she was walking into at dinner the next night. She didn't know I had already lit the fuse. She didn't know what I sold, but she was about to. They say you can sense the moment before a storm hits. The air thickens, conversations lag, laughter sounds forced. That's exactly how the dining hall felt that night. Everyone looked like actors who didn't know the script had changed. Ashley strutted beside me, glowing with the smug arrogance of someone who thought she was invincible. She wore a silver dress, so tight it might have been sprayed on. Every step said, admire me. Every breath whispered, I've already won. Madison and Luke were waiting at the table. Madison waved like she owned the place, while Luke forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He knew something was off. Men can read other men's silence. Ashley slid in her chair next to Madison, not me. She wanted distance, theatrics, a stage. That was her first mistake. The second was underestimating mine. The waiter poured wine. Ashley clinked her glass loudly. To 10 years of marriage, she announced, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Can you believe Ethan lasted this long? I would have quit after 5. Madison laughed. Luke stared at his napkin again, like it was the last safe place on earth. I didn't look at her, didn't flinch, didn't blink. Ashley couldn't handle it. A predator becomes anxious when prey stops running. So, Ethan, she said, leaning forward, scanning my face for cracks. What did you get me? A fishing rod? A gift card to Home Depot? She rolled her eyes. You're so predictable. I smiled. Not this year. That unsettled her. Her lips twitched. Oh, she asked. Don't tell me you sold something to afford it? She meant it as a joke. Everyone laughed. That was their last moment of joy. I leaned back in my chair, my voice relaxed, my tone surgical. Funny you mentioned selling things. Ashley's smirk froze. I did sell something, I continued, and the buyer was thrilled, practically ecstatic that what he was getting came at such a bargain. Madison perked up, ready to mock. What did you sell, Ethan? Your old truck? Your dignity? No, I said calmly. Something more valuable. Something that's been in our lives from the beginning. Something Ashley loves almost as much as herself. Ashley shifted, suddenly alert. She didn't like where this was going. What are you talking about? She demanded. I set down my glass. Slowly, deliberately, the kind of movement that tells people the next words will matter. You sold my cabin, I said, without telling me, without my consent, for your boyfriend. I watched the color drain from her face. So I sold something too. Madison snorted. Oh God, Ethan, stop being dramatic. No, Luke said quietly, eyes fixed on me. Let him speak. Ashley's eyes narrowed to slits. You're bluffing. I smiled like a man who had finally slept after years of nightmares. Last week, I met with our lawyer. Since I'm the sole financial provider, and since all shared assets were acquired with my income, I paused, savoring the silence. I signed over our house. Ashley blinked. What? It's gone, I said. Sold. Finalized. Closed. Madison laughed, too loud, because she didn't understand yet. Ashley did. Her face twisted. You can't do that. I already did. Sold to who? She hissed. I looked right into her soul and spoke her greatest fear. Your boyfriend. Her mouth fell open. Madison gasped. Luke's eyes widened with horrified fascination. Ashley's voice cracked. Brandon doesn't have money. He does now, I replied. The buyer, Brandon, was shocked the house was so cheap. I told him my wife didn't appreciate it, that she wanted freedom more than stability. Madison's brain finally caught up. You sold Ashley's house to her boyfriend? No, I said, leaning forward. I sold my house. Brandon now owns it. And since Ashley is still legally married to me, she has no rights to it. And since she spent the cabin money, she can't buy it back. Ashley slammed her hands on the table. You can't do this. You started it, I replied. I finished it. The room was silent. Ashley's face contorted into something feral. Anger twisted with realization. For the first time since I'd known her, she wasn't in control. You think this is over? She spat. I shrugged. It already is. She stood so fast her chair fell backward, storming out like the world owed her applause. Madison scrambled after her. Luke stayed seated, staring at me like he'd just watched a king reclaim his throne. What now? He asked. I finished my wine. Part 7, I said. Ashley didn't return that night. Not to the dining room. Not to the suite. Not to me. The resort staff whispered when I walked past, their eyes wide, their curiosity barely hidden behind forced professionalism. News spreads fast when someone's ego is publicly detonated. And Ashley's ego wasn't just large, it was structural. It was how she breathed, how she walked, how she survived. Take away her admiration, her leverage, her stage, you kill her air supply. I sat on the balcony, the cold mountain air biting into my skin, listening to the wind sweep through the trees like an orchestra tuning for the next act. The door opened behind me. Luke stepped out, hands in his pockets, his shoulders heavy with a burden that wasn't his. She's losing it, he muttered. I know. She's screaming at Madison right now, like she's auditioning for a crime documentary. I didn't laugh. I didn't feel victorious. Revenge isn't fireworks, it's gravity. Heavy, inevitable, consequential. She really thought she owned everything. Luke continued. I don't think she ever considered you capable of any of this. That was her biggest mistake, I said. Not the cheating, not the selling, the assumption. He nodded. Then, quietly, what's next? The truth was I didn't know. I hadn't planned past the blow. But the universe has a talent for pushing the story along once you give it momentum. The next morning, Ashley showed up at the suite door. Not knocking, pounding. I opened it. She shoved her way inside like she still lived in a world where doors opened for her by default. You think you're smart? She hissed. Her eyes were red, not from sadness. Ashley didn't have the emotional capacity for regret, but from rage. Rage at losing control. Smarter than you gave me credit for, I replied. She paced like a trapped animal. You sold a house. My house. Our house. I corrected. Legally, mine. Do you know what you've done? She shrieked. Yes, I said. I leveled the playing field. That was my backup plan, she spat. My safety net. Brandon and I. I raised a hand. Stop. I don't want to hear his name again. She recoiled, then smirked. Smirking was her shield. If she could ridicule something, she could survive it. You think this scares me? She scoffed. I could get another house. Another life. Good, I said. Get both. Away from me. For a moment, the mask slipped. Fear flickered in her eyes. Pure, animal fear. Because Ashley wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing the version of herself she built around me. She jabbed her finger in my chest. You're pathetic. You think you've won because you blindsided me? Real power isn't about houses and cabins. It's about presence, influence, who people follow, and who follows you now. I asked softly. Silence. Then, another mistake. My boyfriend will fix this, she said, voice trembling with forced confidence. He can try, I replied. But you handed him the key to my life. I handed him the bill. She didn't understand. Not yet. Ashley stormed out again, her heels hitting the hallway floor like gunshots. By noon, she understood. Her phone exploded with messages. Brandon wasn't celebrating. He wasn't grateful. He was furious. He couldn't afford property taxes, maintenance, repairs. Any of the burdens she assumed I handled effortlessly. He hadn't bought a house. He'd inherited a responsibility he couldn't carry. And the moment reality set in, Brandon asked the question Ashley never anticipated. What did you drag me into? Ashley called me, voice shaky, brittle. You ruined everything, she whispered. No. Ikurrakta. You traded everything. I just signed a receipt. That night, she tried bargaining, pleading, threatening, every stage of emotional demolition. But nothing stuck, because Ashley finally realized something terrifying. She wasn't a chess player. She was a piece, a replaceable one. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't moving anyone. She was being moved. Tomorrow, she would make her final move, the desperate one. She just didn't know it would end the story. The next morning didn't feel like an ending. Endings are supposed to have a sense of closure, a cinematic fade out, a final line that wraps everything neatly. But real endings don't arrive tied with bows. They show up as quiet realizations, as breaths that feel different, as versions of yourself you no longer recognize. Ashley knocked on my door again, but this time it wasn't thunderous. It was soft, hesitant, like someone unsure they still had permission to exist. When I opened it, she wasn't dressed like the Ashley the world knew. No drama, no muck-up, no arme. Just a woman who finally realized the mirror wasn't lying. We need to talk, she whispered. We did, I replied. She stepped inside anyway, because Ashley never respected boundaries until they smack her in the face. I made a mistake, she said, voice trembling. I never should have sold the cabin. I never should have. Stop pretending you love me, I suggested. Her face twisted. Not because I was wrong, but because hearing truth spoken aloud can peel skin. You don't understand, she tried. Brandon was never the problem, I said. He was the symptom. She flinched. I didn't cheat because I didn't love you. That's the thing, I said quietly. You didn't cheat instead of loving me. You cheated because loving me required work, commitment, accountability. She stared at me like my words were bullets. I continued. You chased validation like oxygen. You needed to be admired more than you needed to be loyal. And when admiration stopped being effortless, you went looking for it elsewhere. She said nothing, because there wasn't a lie strong enough to fight that truth. You ruined everything, she whispered, not accusingly this time, but like she finally understood the rubble was hers. No, ikurrakta. You revealed everything. She sank into a chair. For the first time in 10 years, Ashley looked small. Human. Not the queen. Not the villain. Just a person stripped of the illusion she worshipped. Can we fix this? She asked. It wasn't a plea of love. It was a plea of survival. No, I said gently. Her eyes widened, not with anger, but with something worse. Recognition. You can't just walk away, she burst out suddenly, desperation tightening every syllable. You can't throw 10 years away. You threw them first, I replied. All I did was stop catching them. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy with the ghosts of every ignored warning, every dismissed feeling, every excuse she had weaponized. Eventually, she stood, adjusting her clothes the way someone prepares for execution. What happens to me now? She asked. You start over, I said. Without me. Without my name. Without my house. Without the man you counted on to clean up after your impulses. She swallowed hard. Will you hate me forever? I thought about that. Hate is heavy. Hate shackles you to the person who hurt you. Hate is continued worship of what broke you. No, I said. I don't hate you. I outgrew you. Her knees almost buckled. Ashley walked out of the suite then, not storming, not clawing at the air, not announcing her exit like a royal decree. She just left, quietly. That's how empires fall, not in explosions, but in silence. Returning home alone was surreal. The house, Brandon's house now, stood like a monument to a life that belonged to someone else. I didn't want it, and Ashley couldn't have it. It was poetic justice through paperwork. I packed what was mine. It wasn't much, some clothes, tools, photographs I chose carefully, not memories of her, but memories of who I was before her. As I walked away, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. There's a difference. Freedom doesn't celebrate. Freedom exhales. Here's what I learned. Betrayal doesn't destroy you. It introduces you to yourself. The man who walked into that marriage was eager, hopeful blind. The man who walked out was awake. And if someone ever asks me what advice I'd give to husbands who think loving someone means dissolving into them, I'll say this. Do not hand someone the blueprint to your soul and be surprised when they try to renovate it. Love deeply, yes, but never confuse love with surrender. And never, ever let someone convince you that your value rises only when they feel tall enough to stand on your spine. Ashley taught me that. Not through love, through loss. That was the end of us, but not the end of me. And sometimes, that's the only ending that matters.